Ever since the 5th Parliament convened in July, we've seen that we've had one actor trying to be disruptive in Parliament, the EFF. And what we need to understand is that it's not important what they do, it's how we deal with it that's pivotal, because we need to set a precedence without harming the image of Parliament, and we need to find a resolution that will allow Parliament to discuss laws and ideas that seek to improve the lives of people, which is their mandate. And that's what we're trying to prove in today's debate. Whether or not the EFF is guilty of being disruptive isn't necessary. How we deal with them is the pivotal part of this debate. Now, the first speaker came up here and gave us a nice contextual about how the setting in Parliament is hostile, it's unpredictable, but that's fundamentally and factually not true. We see that the incident that happened on the 21st of August was a verbal disagreement with a person who's speaking at the podium, and this is actually encouraged in Parliament. We see that discourse is important in, no thank you, it's actually important in Parliament. So what we see is that when the EFF stood up and said pay back the money, they weren't posing a physical threat to the other MPs. So there's actually no hostile situation. It's just the manner in which they did it that was rather unusual, but it's not necessarily hostile. So what we see is the reason why the proposition are going to lose today's debate is because they fundamentally don't understand that there's already an actor in the status quo. There's already the sergeant at arms who's there to ensure that, no thank you, that disruptions are dealt with appropriately and Parliament can reconvene peacefully. Now, the proposition in today's debate had to prove two things to you: that there's an incessant need for police intervention in Parliament, which they still haven't proven, and they need to prove that while the Parliament officers, the sergeants at arms, are incapable of handling the situation. And we as the opposition have shown you in today's debate that not only is it not going to resolve the problem that we have, it's also going to become detrimental. It's going to exacerbate the problem, and I'm going to analyze this on two levels. First level is that it's antagonizing, as it's an extreme route to take. It's essentially bringing Goliath to face a 2-year-old David. It's hyperbolic and it's unnecessary. And the second level is intimidation, because one fundamental principle stands true in today's debate. When you have physical intimidation, it will lead to physical retaliation. And that's exactly what we saw on the 21st of August, when Baleka Mbete asked the police to come in. The EFF, because in this debate, unlike any other debate, we have the benefit of precedence. Because we've had two instances where the sergeant of arms came in and handled the situation, and the police came in and handled the situation. What happened when the sergeant of arms handled the situation was that things got sorted out peacefully. The EFF left, obviously they made some noise, but they left peacefully, and Parliament was allowed to reconvene. Whereas on the 21st, what happened? The police came in with their military fashion, with the hostile nature that you actually are lying to us about. They came in with that hostile environment and actually pushed the EFF. And what did the EFF do? They retaliated. A retaliation that wouldn't have happened if you let the sergeant of arms do that. Now, in today's debate, the proposition has to prove to us that the sergeant of arms is not capable of handling the situation. Now, it's important to analyze that there are two logical outcomes in today's debate if the police intervene in Parliament. The first outcome is the false outcome and the lie that the proposition is trying to feed us, which is that the police will come and subdue the MPs and succeed in resolving the issue, which is highly unlikely with the military nature and physical intimidation that the police bring. They try to squirrel out of their mandate and tell us that the police aren't allowed to bring in guns and bring in riot gear. Then what's the point? Because we already have sergeants of arms that are already there to take us and handle certain situations. They don't carry guns, they don't carry riot gear, but they get things done effectively. So we asked the proposition, why do we need police if they're exactly the same as sergeants of arms? And I'll show you that not only is it unnecessary, it becomes detrimental at the same time. Because at the end of the day, we see that the police are not necessary. Now, here's a classic statistic for you that proves that police are actually quite hostile. 100% of people who come into contact with the police die. What does this tell you? It tells you that the police are not friendly people. It tells you that the police are not people that you want to mess with, and that's absolutely unnecessary in Parliament. And we see that the police must not forget their mandates to serve and protect society at a larger scale, because they have the resources, they have the right incentive. And we see that they're not serving anyone in Parliament if they come in, because there's no need. Because we already have the what? These sergeants of arms. And they're not protecting anyone, because as much as the proposition wants to feed us this, the EFF doesn't pose a physical threat in Parliament. It's a verbal disagreement with someone who's speaking at the podium. So if someone stood up today and said, Sasa, stop talking, I don't take that as a physical threat. I take that as a verbal...
You're out of order, man.
Thank you. Such as that, is that a physical intimidation? I don't think so. She's not posing a physical threat on me. There's no need to be hyperbolic and say that you're now posing a physical threat. You're just disagreeing.
You're out of order, man.
So what we're seeing exactly is a hyperbolic situation where things are taken out of context. And we say that even if the EFF did, assuming we're not conceding, pose a physical threat, we see that it's not necessary to have the police intervene because we have what? The sergeants of arms. So we believe that domestic issues need domestic solutions, and the Parliament Guard is that solution. And my last point of separation of power, we asked the proposition who the police are accountable to, because we know for a fact that parliamentary guards are accountable to Parliament. We ask you, if the police abuse their power, who are they accountable for? Exactly, not the Parliament, and that's why the motion should do nothing but fall.